You're listening to Lords of Thunder Podcast with your host Alpha Omega Sin and Happy Console Gamer.
So, welcome back to another Lords of Thunder podcast. I am one of your hosts, Johnny Millennium, and I am joined by the Sin, the Alpha, and the Omega. Omega Sin.
I'm Alpha Omega Cinnamon. Oh yeah,
Cinnamon.
Pumpkin spice. Everything nice.
Now that you've said that, I'll always see that. Alpha Omega Cinnamon.
Alfredo Omega 3 Cinnamon. That's my culinary name. I've fucked with my name so many different times, just making it into silly different variations. I'm just like, that's much better. I like that. I eventually need to have like a stud name for the porn industry.
Like, I think even when I came onto YouTube, I grabbed the name Happy Console Gamer. I made sure I got Angry Console Gamer as well. I snagged that back in the day. I still have that. I've never used it. I don't think I could ever. I'll use it for my ranting. You know, and I'm calling Alpha Mega Sin out for all his bullshit.
Oh, fuck him. Fuck him and his fucking face. God damn it.
Bullshit. I'll call him out for calling things out.
Oh, dude, I was, like, happy as shit that I was able to get my Alpha Omega Sin name. That was a big-ass deal to me. So it's like, I wonder if it's taken, but, I mean, fuck, man. I made that in 2007, so nobody really had, like, a YouTube account back then.
No, I remember it was so easy for me to grab mine. I'm like, done, grab. And you know what's so funny? I grabbed a Twitch account back in the day, too. I can't remember my password. I made some weird password. Dude, damned if I can remember.
You just got to do the forget password thing. Be like, I don't remember this. Please send it to me.
But it was so old, they sent it to an email that I don't even check anymore. I don't even know what that email is. I used to have an email.
That fucking happened to me. eBay had done this, like, massive reset. They were like, all right, well, our servers kind of got hacked and blah, 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 so, we have to do this forced reset, so you have to make a new password, and we sent the shit to your email. Well, it sent it to an email that I had, like, early 2000s, and that company doesn't even exist anymore, meaning that email isn't around. So I'm like, and there was no way for me to access this anymore. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? I already had, like, all my ratings and shit real high on there because I've been using it for such a long time. Then just magically, it let me log into one day. And I was like, oh, good shit. Thank you. Because I was going to have to call them and be like, hey, I don't have that. You need to fix this. Stop fucking up, eBay.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember I had to change my password on that one for sure. So I did remember that. But, like for the whole, like, I used to have a bunch of weird old emails from back in 2000 that, you know, I replaced in like 2006, 7, 8, especially when I started doing the show. But yeah, I had no problem grabbing the name. Back then I could grab any name. I was testing names. I was like, oh, I got this name. I could grab this name. It was easy.
Curly fries in the cooter. Yep, that's not taken, but it's mine. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Hey, so, I remember when I was looking for URLs back in the day. Oh my god, it must be about 2001. And I was like, I want to see if Govelius is a Master System, like, action RPG game, one that I grew up with and I loved. I'm like, I wonder if that's available. And it was. I'm like, fucking taken. So I took it, and I was going to grab it, I should say, but I didn't. And then I think about a week later it was taken. I'm like, fuck, you know. But the one name story that I did grab was Zentada.com. So it's so funny. Zentada is a great video game company, band that worked for Taito in the day, creating a lot of great music, and they've created album after albums of fantastic music for Darius, if you want to call it as well, Ninja Warriors. And I was like, I love the band Zentada so much. So I'm like, Zentada.com, not taken? Taken.
I mean,
taken now, motherfuckers.
That's pretty cool, I guess. But I am the proud owner of the URL of River City Handsome. So, just saying. I mean, your story is cool and all, you know, that's nice, but it's not River City Handsome levels of cool.
What are you doing with that?
Nothing. Dude, it was like $1. I'm dead fucking serious. Because I was sitting there shooting this shit. It was me, Eric, and Billy, and just sitting there fucking having a little chuckle fest on Skype. And we were trying, this was before Final Bosses. We had like a name for it. We were trying to come up with names for stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like River City Handsome, and I looked it up, and it came out to like 90-something cents, and then after all the shit was done, it was like $1 something. I was like, I'll take it. Fuck it. So I'm the proud owner of RiverCityHandsome.com.
Yeah, we were looking at a bunch of different names for before Final Bosses. I remember Hack and Slash and...
Oh, dude, Hack and Slash was going to be the name, but the fucking dude that owned it was such a fucking asshole. Oh my god. Oh. He was like, I'm going to sell the name for some overpriced bullshit. And as soon as we expressed interest in it, it went from like being like 400 to 500, from 500 to 1,000.
Yeah, what a
It's like, dude, you know what? Suck a fucking bag of dicks. You can go fuck yourself and keep the goddamn name. You're a fucking turd burglar.
Yeah, and then we actually had the name Final Bosses, tucked away. So we said, yeah, let's use that.
Yeah, and it worked out. Oh, yeah. Oh, and in this episode of the Lords of Thunder podcast, what shall we be talking about, Mr. Johnny Millennium?
Oh, it's a very small company. You probably never heard of them. It's a bit of a hidden gem of a company.
Oh, I'm intrigued. You've piqued my interest, and nipples are hard and everything, cutting through the shirt.
It is. We're going to talk about Capcom. We're going to talk about our. Yeah,
I've never heard of them. Please tell me about this company, and I've never heard of them.
Let me tell you about Capcom. Capcom is a company. No, Capcom is a great Japanese company that we grew up with, and they have such a heritage. They have such an arcade history. They have such a home console history, and they have become controversial over the last few years. And I think they're settling out now, but we'll get into all of that. And let me ask you this. What was the very first Capcom game you ever played?
My first Capcom game. Oh, fuck.
We're terrible people, by the way.
I think my very first Capcom game... fuck me. It had to have been on the NES. I want to say that it was actually one of the Disney games.
Really?
It like DuckTales or Chip and Dale, I think might have been my very first Capcom game.
That's interesting.
I'm trying, man. I'd have to look up the release dates for everything because I don't remember like exactly what year I got what game and what order I got a lot of my games. I just remember what I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I know that those were some of the earliest ones. Like I didn't play Mega Man until like the SNES era.
Yeah.
And like I didn't have access to them. I'd seen it, but I never had the opportunity to because we could only afford so many games. But yeah, DuckTales and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers were some of my earliest memories of Capcom as far as like, first experiences go. Now I'm really curious. Fuck.
When I think back, I think the first games that I remember, if I really think back, was like Commando. And not our favorite Schwarzenegger Commando, but just the overhead, run and gun, grenade shooting Commando. That's what I remember.
Which was a good-ass game.
It was fun back in the day. That was the shit. And 1942, the old shooter in the arcade. That's the only thing that I can remember.
I'm so glad you said that. That was actually one of the earliest games I played too. So it might have been that. I didn't even fucking think about that. Damn.
Hey, don't worry. The old man is here to remind you.
Thank you. Happy old school gamer.
I remember playing 1942 and 1943. It was crazy. Fucking crazy.
We used cartridges and we blew inside of them, similar to what your mother was doing. Oh, that fellatio. Oh. So, but
that's
dude,
awesome.
I'm so fucking glad that you mentioned that, though, man, because I didn't even fucking think about. I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, okay, so I had DuckTales, Chip and Dale, but yeah, 1942 was definitely one of the earliest ones I played. I don't know if I played it before that, but I know it's around that time, so that could have maybe Depending.
Yeah.
I'd have to go into the Wayback Machine and find out.
What about like Ghosts and Goblins? Like I remember playing that in like a laundromat in an arcade, like on an arcade machine. I remember thinking this game is so hard, but it's so cool. But God, it's so. I remember my first memories of that game were how hard it was. It wasn't like, oh, look at the pretty graphics. It was like, that game is a challenging motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Your first memories were how hard it was. So you felt like a little Catholic choir boy.
Oh,
that must have been interesting.
Why? I'm glad to see you again, priest.
See, I think it's cool that you got to play it in the arcade.
Yeah.
I still, to this day, right now, have not gotten to play it in an arcade. Ever.
You are fucking... No. So
I'm not
hold
kidding.
the podcast. Hold the podcast. What? Like, you
That's
never
serious.
played it? Wait, my brain's exploding right now. Wait. You've never played... You never played arcade games growing up?
Oh, no. See, I played arcade games growing up, but most of the arcade games that I got to play weren't like the ones that you could play the home conversions of. Like, with like Ghosts and Goblins / Ghouls and Ghosts, I played them at home. I'd never even seen the arcade version of it when I was younger. Like, most of the time when I was going to arcades, you know, I remember fondly playing like SNK games and like some fighting games here and there, but never got to play like an adventure platforming type game like that. And what's weird is I played Ghouls and Ghosts before I played Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, a lot of people did. Yeah.
And that was because when we got the Sega Genesis, we got it from my brother's friend Spaceman, who is... I miss that fucking dude so much. But Spaceman had stolen, like, the Genesis and a bunch of games and shit. And he brought it to our house and was like... You know, he'd always like, flip things all the time. And he sold all of it for, like, $50. So, Ghouls and Ghosts was amongst them, and I played the shit out of that. I never beat it when I was younger, because that game's brutal. Like, it is fucking brutal.
You know what's funny about Ghosts and Goblins I was bad at, but Ghouls and Ghosts I was a lot better at. I can finish that game in a couple of sittings. I honestly can get through it. Like, I remember all the patterns, because that's what video games were back then. It was about patterns. It was about repeating things over and over, memorizing, and you just become like, I love that game, but I just hate getting to the end and finding out I have to do the entire game again.
I'm just saying, but maybe some people would like to see an episode of Let's Play Again with you and Kim tearing through that.
Oh my! You know, it's you're gonna say the funny
if
thing
anything,
is,
that's like spousal abuse after. Well,
yeah, you know, it'd be more me beating the game than her. And you know, the only way I could see that working is that I'm playing it. The only way she could set me off is like, oh, you missed that jump again? Hey, I'd be power bombing her through a movie screen.
right through the Genesis, just
yeah. I'd be power bombing her ass back to 1989, motherfucker.
And then spread eagle, blast processing. Fuck yeah. So
ass processing.
Yeah, ass processing. Oh yeah, dude. Now I want a fucking Sega porn. And it's just like, you want all 9 bits? Oh yeah, ass processing.
Oh my god. Yes, it does, but Nintendo don't.
Dude, yeah, Nintendo definitely won't do it in the back door. Backdoor Explorer!
Processing.
Dude, we definitely need to keep ass processing.
Ass processing.
Not blast processing, just straight up ass processing.
So let's go back in time. Let's start again. So I'm just trying to think. One of the other early arcade games of Capcom that I remember was Street Fighter 1. It was called Fighting Street. You know, when it was released over here. But it was, I don't know if anybody remembers, but it was an arcade game where it had big, oh my god, pads that you would have to punch. You know what I mean? So the harder you punch them, the more damage
I'd seen it, but I saw the version that actually had the joystick and the buttons. I've only seen pictures of the one where you beat the shit out of it, which I thought was a horrible idea.
It was, because you'd hurt your fucking hands. And then most of the arcades that I went in with that game, what's funny is the pads from like delinquents and assholes. They would just they'd rip off the pads. So it would just be the fucking, I don't even know what you call it, like a cup thing that you'd hit, type of thing. But it would fucking hurt your hand, so you just like kind of press the button. You're like, okay, I pressed it. You know, it was so stupid, but they were always ripped off. It was very rare to find one that was intact.
It's strange because like the idea of it's a terrible fucking idea, but it's kind of cool that they were willing to try something different.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays they'd be like, okay, you're going to use like motion control or some kind of shit like that, or with a VR headset. And then back then they were like, fuck it, we're just going to do what we can. I don't know, beat the shit out of the machine. Now it's like you're really fighting, bloody knuckles and all. Like, yeah, that's totally not going to be weird that you have like 37 different blood deposits all over the fucking thing, and it looks like Batman just went to fucking town on some thugs. Totally cool. That's fine.
What got me about the game at the time was how, it may sound hilarious, but how huge the characters were on the screen. And I remember there was like Karate Champ. Like, if anybody wants to hear the kind of a small moment of history of fighting games, is that there's a game called Karate Champ, and you'd have a guy in a white gi and a guy in a red gi, and there'd be a little character in the middle that throw a white flag down, and you'd fight. And it was very rudimentary, but it was like one of the very first few one-on-one fighting games, and it was really not great. But all of a sudden, and you wanted it to be good, you did, and then all of a sudden you saw Street Fighter 1 and you're like, oh fuck, this is what it's supposed to be. And I fell in love with the game. I fell in love with the characters, the graphics, everything about it. I thought it was absolutely amazing, and we'll come back to that moment in a bit when we talk about Street Fighter 2. But sorry, that was I just want to give you some of the moments in the arcade. The other moment I had in an arcade was, it was the first place I saw Street Fighter 2, but I saw this guy playing this game, and I'm like, look at that character. Like, is that some ninja character? I'm like, that is so cool. Like, what is that? Where is this, in Russia? And oh wow, and he fucked off. He died or whatever, and I got on there, and I remember I was there with Rob's brother and his friends. And I started playing, and it was Strider. And I was like, it was like a big deal. Like, the graphics looked like a cartoon. The animation, the style of it, what it was representing. I mean, it was really unique and really captured your imagination. And for anybody who wants to know, is that I drew in my textbooks at school Strider comic books, and I still have them all. I still have all these Strider comic books about what the Striders got up to. These elite ninja.
Dude, I was gonna say, Strider was so fucking cool. I mean, he was an acrobatic ninja that just ha 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 ha, and would just kill everything in his fucking path.
It was great, and see, so all of a sudden, Capcom was like, "Oh, this is Capcom," you know. Like but I didn't. It's funny, the name didn't solidify until the NES. And that's where you remember it best from. And I don't think that's oh, geez, I didn't play all these old arcade games of theirs, but they really became known on the NES. That's where, you remember the name Capcom from.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it helps because everybody, back then had an NES in their home. It was inescapable. You couldn't get away from Nintendo. Nintendo was everywhere, and it was a household name. And Capcom was one of the biggest third-party companies in the entire world, and still is today. But, you know, in that day, they were innovating left and right.
Oh, my God. It was, tell me about, your early experiences playing the NES and discovering Capcom.
Oh, dude, it was amazing to me. I still remember all the time, enjoying the fact that they had unique art compared to other people, because they had Konami would have the silver outline to all of their labels, so you could recognize it from a mile away, like, oh, that's totally Konami. And then Capcom had purple, and then before that they had that crazy 80s looking weird grid design that it looked like strange vector type graphics that was almost kind of like the Sega Genesis box art to a degree, which is why I think they honestly changed it. But they I remember that I really enjoyed their Disney games. Like I had said, I got really into Chippendale Rescue Rangers and DuckTales, and it helps a lot that I watched those cartoons religiously. So I was watching those all the time, them playing the games all the time, and just coming across some of the stuff that they had made back then, like... A lot of people don't give it the respect it deserves, which makes me sad. But I really liked Mighty Final Fight.
Yeah, I didn't play that till the ROM days. I never. Nobody in my neighborhood ever had that game.
Oh, dude, it was just like I like beat 'em ups like a fucking ton. I love beat 'em ups, and Double Dragon 2 is my very first one like that I've ever played. And then eventually got my hands on River City Ransom. Then eventually got my hands on Mighty Final Fight, which I still have Mighty Final Fight today. And it's
awesome.
It's such a good game, though. Like, so good. And everybody be like, oh, yeah, but it's not as good as the arcade and the Super Nintendo.
No, you got a fucking version of the NES at home. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but it's its own game. If you look at it and try to compare it to, these gigantic, super huge characters and blah, 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 then that'd be like saying that Streets of Rage 1 sucks because the character sprites in Final Fight are bigger. That doesn't even make sense. It's still a good game. Yeah. And, it just... I love the shit out of that. Darkwing Duck. It's another Disney one, but it played just like Mega Man. And that game, I still haven't even beaten it today, but I remember back then, I couldn't get far in it, but I'd try. I would try so fucking hard, because I remember, Darkwing Duck! Yeah. Let's get dangerous. Darkwing Duck! Yeah. Better watch out, you bad boy, Darkwing Duck! But, like, I would draw that. I would read the Adventures magazines and shit, which were for Disney. And it's weird, I didn't give a fuck about Disney movies, but I liked the shows, and then, obviously, the games big time. But, would play that. Mega Man, like I said, I didn't get into until, like, around the SNES era. And
did you not play any of these? Sorry, I gotta ask you, did you not play any Mega Man games on the NES?
Not originally. My love for Mega Man actually started with Mega Man X series.
Oh, wow.
So, and for me, it was kind of backwards. And most people will be like, oh my god, that's terrible. But I never had them. I didn't even know people with them. So it wasn't something that I could like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and pick this up and play it and shit. But I went back and played them around the SNES era because I was like, oh, there's other Mega Man games. I'm going to go and try these out. And I remember I loved them a lot. To a certain degree, I kind of like some of them more than the Mega Man X games. Mm-hmm. But it was a weird, I consider them quite different, even though they're really the same. But like Mega Man X has like a lot more story inside of it. It's a lot more serious. But Mega Man just in general is always amazing, but Mega Man Legends is going to be my favorite of all time.
Yeah, there's something wonderful about that game. That's
I'm the fucking weirdo when it comes.
No, you know what? Like we're not going to get into that. Well, we can. Is that what I liked about Legends is that it was everything at the time that I loved. It had anime art. It had an RPG story. It was an RPG, but it was an action game. And this open world, which it felt to me at the time. I know it's a little limited by today's standards, but it was unbelievable then. And just the boss characters and leveling up of your weapons. And there's the music. Everything about it worked for me.
No, it was, dude. Like Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, especially 2, and the Misadventures of Tron, those games are excellent in every single way. Yeah. That, like, you had brought up the whole anime look and story. I mean, through and through, that's absolutely the dead honest truth, is that it feels like you're getting a real-life anime. You're getting these cel-shaded graphics that, to some people, might look crude and rudimentary by comparison to what you can get, on modern-day consoles, but I consider for the time, they blew a lot of games away.
Yeah.
Like, and they were amazing. And for being a 3D game, which most 3D games back then, it was iffy whether or not it was going to look good or sound good and all that shit. And that managed to control well, not have a camera that made you want to fucking freak out and break a controller. And they were just fun. And a lot of games had trouble transitioning from 2D to 3D because we had Mega Man, then Mega Man X. Now we were getting this, and I thought they did a great job, like fucking awesome job.
Yeah. Oh, I thought so too. I really did. We'll get into all the controversies in a bit. We're going to talk more about Legends, but the thing that got me was the funny thing I remember is like Mega Man on the NES is that the number one game, and they had a lot. Nobody remembers this unless you were around at the time. Is that there wasn't a lot of Mega Man 1s, but there was a lot of Mega Man 2s created.
Oh yeah.
And so all of my friends, everybody had Mega Man 2. Everybody in the neighborhoods, everybody who had it. I finished it. It's the only Mega Man game I've ever finished besides the Legends series. You know, that was the main game because I'm not a big Mega Man guy. I never have been.
Everybody's going to be like, you son of a bitch.
Why? I like Mega Man. I appreciate it.
How dare you? You have to love
I don't think so. I'm not. I think it's a great series. I think it's fantastic, rich in heritage and history. But I'm just not an active player of Mega Man games. That's what Rob's for. That's what Rob does. That's his thing. That's what he loves. And you know what? I to be honest with you, when I met Rob, I was living vicariously through his love for Mega Man, and so there wasn't enough love for both of our love for Mega Man in there, just for his. And I took that, and that was great. As much as he couldn't love Phantasy Star as much as I did, there's just no way. But he appreciates it, but he's not a fanatic about it.
It's nice to have those friends that are really into something.
Yeah.
Because they kind of get you into some shit that you probably wouldn't have invested nearly as much emotion or thought or just interest in.
Mm-hmm.
And all because of stuff like that. I mean, fuck, there's countless games like that for me. A lot of my friends aren't really big into horror games at all. And I'm huge into them. They love RPGs. That's their main bag, is they love RPGs through and through and think they're the best shit ever. And I do too, but I also have this great appreciation for, horror games a bunch. But, now, okay, I know that you're very big into Street Fighter and just very big into fighting games in general, but you're very big into Street Fighter. What was it like for you the first time that you got to pick up the fucking legend known as Street Fighter 2?
And that's what I want to talk about. Yeah, that I'd seen Street Fighter 1, so there was a history there. There was a foundation. It was a flawed game.
Now, did you know that Fighting Street and Street Fighter 2 were the same exact series?
I knew when I had a TurboGrafx CD-ROM and they had a game Fighting Street. I'm like, wait, that's Street Fighter 1. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why they changed the name. I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll grab it. And I did. And so I got Fighting Street just as Street Fighter 2 was in the arcades. I got it at home. So people coming over to my place going, and I'd be like bragging to them, I got Street Fighter 1. And then they play the game with me for a bit, and they're like, yeah, it's not as good. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I have it.
But I have it.
But I have it. So what was interesting was that at that same arcade that I saw Strider at, one day, I was just kind of walking around, and this is funny. So this arcade was like a storefront. So it was all covered in glass. So you could see into the arcade and see all the machines through the glass. And so I'm kind of walking by, and I look.
Press your face up against it and have your tongue hanging out of it?
Well, yeah. Well, this is what's so weird is that I stopped and looked because I was going to go in no matter what. But I stopped because there was an event going on, and not a planned event, but just all of these people were surrounding this machine, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And you just knew it was the next big thing. You knew it was like, oh, something important's happening. I better get in there. And I got in, and I had to kind of step on my toes to push myself up to see what the fuck are they playing. And I just remember it was Guile stage, and it was a Ryu, versus Ken player. And I looked, and I'm like, oh my god! I knew that they did fireballs in the original. Okay, now here's something else that's interesting. I just discovered Dragon Ball Z. That's before it was on television over here.
Oh, damn.
An exchange student who was living with a friend of mine had recorded onto his camcorder episodes from Japan, and he brought them over. And we had watched it, and we're like, oh my god. It was such a big deal that I created my own fan club called the DBZ Boys. I know that sounds hilarious, but that's what it was back then. This is before it was out in this country, and I gave everybody a special card. You see, and I draw a little picture of the character, and it say DBZ on the back. And I remember. Okay, here's the story. Rob came up to me, and he was really bullied in high school. And I always defended him. And he's like, please, 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 can I become part of the DBZ Boys? Please, please, please. You care for protection, because all my big, like, skateboarder friends were a part of it. It's so dumb. I was the only one who had a passion for it. Everybody's like, yeah, I'll be a part of it, just to appease me or something. But she said, can I be a part of it? Can I be a part of it? I'm like, yeah, I'll bring you a special card tomorrow. And so everybody else's card had DBZ, and it was in red, but I'd colored his, and I'd hand done them all. And his was in yellow, and it had an expiry date of the product. This is no joke.
It was probably just like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I was just, because I the whole thing was a bit of a joke. It was more about my passion for discovering Dragon Ball Z, and all that. So Rob was like, he was so excited to get one, but then he's like, what the fuck? He had that moment. But so what ended up happening is one of my friends had I think he graffitied DBZ Boys on the side of the school. Okay.
Dude, you guys are fucking like little hellions and shit, but like stupid Dragon idiots. Ball Z up in this bitch.
Yeah, but then something happened. This is no joke. How could I even make something like this up? That would be fucked. But all of a sudden, all over the place, like at the local mall, you start to see DBZ Boys or DBZ. Everybody started fucking it just got picked up in the local gang scenes. They thought it was a real gang. Nobody knew. Do you understand? This is a time when nobody knew what Dragon Ball Z was in this country. Nobody did. So people were like, "Oh my god!" They thought the DBZ Boys was a real gangster gang, man. Like that, and oh man, fucking the DBZ Boys, and all these rumors were going around. It was hilarious. I'm not shitting you. It was a really big deal. This is before the internet, so that's how things kind of got spread through the word of mouth and weird graffiti. I know it sounds medieval, but it was
like I'm amused as shit right now thinking about like they're just spray painting DBZ and they're walking down the street snapping their fingers and shit and be like, Goku's gonna get ya, Krillin's gonna get ya, Gohan's gonna get ya good. But just thinking about all this shit, and I'm thinking about the bad video from Michael Jackson, but it's just like everybody's cosplayed real poorly as Dragon Ball Z characters. Yeah. Oh my god, I need to see that. Master Roshi is like trying to give it to various bitches and shit. Oh man, like 13 different Bulmas fucking twerking.
Okay, you know how I can prove the story to you? I wish I showed it to you when we were in Portland. The next time I see you in reality, remind me my wallet. In my wallet, I still have my original DBZ card from 1989.
Oh no, I've actually seen that. That
have you
showed me? Yeah. As a matter of fact, the first time that we ever got to meet up, I remember we were shooting a shit, and we had both showed various dumb things out of our fucking wallet and shit, and then you had showed me that exact card, and it's like and how like it you hand drew stuff on it, right?
Yeah, Piccolo was my character because I love that character.
I remembered you showing me that, and I thought, like, I told you, I was like, dude, that's fucking nerdy as shit, but that's so fucking cool.
Oh, you know what? I kind of do remember that. That's weird,
dude. Because that night, I think that was the night that we peed on the side of that building.
Well, not together. We're crossing the streams.
Oh yes, yeah. You never cross the streams and be like, but that's where you get like the most splash zone. So right there. But I remember that card. I was just like, dude, that's fucking awesome. Because I mean, people don't do that shit all. I mean, the closest equivalent I even have is me and my friends had this this Final Fantasy VII shit on a 3.5 floppy disk. That it was an entire like a salute, and we'd have to go and read it off and shit. We had our own Final Fantasy club and shit, and we were the cool people in school, and it made no fucking sense.
Yeah,
we were doing all this nerdy ass shit, and like, and we're the cool people, like the ones that people were like, oh man, they're fucking badass and pretty awesome and funny. Not man, all that shit, but.
Getting back,
Street Fighter
getting
2.
back on track.
Yes.
I discovered Dragon Ball Z and went bananas. And created a gang out of it. A little side project thing, my gang there. And so I'd seen the characters performing like fireballs and things like that, and I was like, whoa, man. I mean, I drew so many Dragon Ball comic books and all that. It was just the secret world of Japan I discovered. So when I'm there in the arcade and I'm seeing characters shooting fireballs, I'm like, oh my God, this is like inspired by Dragon Ball, and oh my God, look at that special move, that hurricane kicks. Well, I didn't know the names of anything back then. I had no idea, and I was like, wow. And I look down and I see all the buttons. I'm like, holy shit, this shit is complicated. This is like really complex. And that was it. Never saw it again. And then one of the big moment in my life was an arcade was up the road from me, had just opened, and me and a couple of friends, we skipped the last class of school and we went the fuck down there. So we drove in his car. We got there. We're like, fuck yeah, we got an arcade. Woo! That was a big fucking deal. We walk in and I'm looking, I'm like, oh fuck, okay, there's that. Combat Tribes is over there. Some weird old arcade games. I'm like, oh, that's over there. And besides seeing the Neo Geo, which came out, I think about a couple weeks later, that game, and right in the middle was Street Fighter 2. And it wasn't just Street Fighter 2. It was going to be my Street Fighter 2. And I walked up and there was nobody on it, and I'm like, oh fuck, oh my God, oh my fucking God, fucking quarters, fuck yes. And I started playing the game and I was getting my ass kicked, destroyed, and I sucked at the game. But it became a religious thing that I take my money that my mom would give me to buy something to eat at school. I started stealing food off people at school to get by. I'd use all that money just to play Street Fighter every single day. It's because of that
damn Dragon Ball Z gang that you were in.
Mother, though, they're DBZ boys.
You roll up and be like, DBZ boys, bitch! And take the money. And they're just like, oh.
Yeah, like, I was...
Treat
and
them
so,
like
anyways,
Solomon.
that's a... Street Fighter 2 is an entire episode into itself. It really is. But there was a phenomena happening around that game. And that's what really... Capcom was on the map, but that game made them like a mega star company.
Oh,
like
yeah.
That game went big.
I mean,
really big.
Street Fighter 2, you can actually go back and still see that games today are influenced by that.
Yeah.
It brought so much to the forefront. I mean, it's without a doubt, if there's a list of most important games of all time, Street Fighter 2 is on that list.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Absolutely,
it was way too influential. I mean, from the varied characters that they brought in, all of which are some of the most iconic and well-known characters ever. And you know, from the control scheme to just everything is just very, very important. And it's all thanks to Capcom doing that. Fucking Street Fighter, man. There isn't anybody who doesn't know what the fuck Street Fighter is.
Yeah, well, it's such a household name, but I saw it gaining popularity back then. I really did. But I'm just going to take it back just to begin another franchise, because you talked about, you know, the NES game, but the arcade game of Final Fight.
Yeah,
that was I remember seeing that in the arcade and being like, you remember your experience was like Double Dragon.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, first beat 'em up was Double Dragon, but whenever I got my hands on Final Fight, I was blown away. Yeah, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. Final Fight's beautiful, you know. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I will always prefer the Streets of Rage series, which.
Oh yeah, of course. I understand why you would say that. It's yeah.
But Final Fight, I wasn't one of those people of like, oh, I'm going to go and compare these two and find out which ones. Like, no, I just love them both because I love beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
And a Final Fight was just cool as shit. And it's crazy to think that Final Fight was going to be Street Fighter 2 at one point.
That's right.
It was originally called Street Fighter 89.
That's right.
And then they said, you know, well, this is way too different, but we still like the idea, so run with it. So they called it Final Fight. And then they took all the stuff that they learned while making Final Fight and made Street Fighter 2. So in a lot of ways, for anybody out there that's a big time Street Fighter fan, you should be playing the Final Fight games. Get the trilogy on SNES. All three of them are good. As a matter of fact, I think it gets better as it goes along, which a lot
does. The gameplay gets a little bit more. It's just kind of like the Ninja Warriors. In the Ninja Warriors again, it gets a little bit more complicated. Which is good.
They refine everything with science, and it just graphically gets better. The music gets better. All of it is just a shit ton better, and it's pretty nice. But no, Final Fight, that's my shit right there.
It's funny. I talked about it maybe before in my past, but we all went up to the arcade. This arcade called Honeybee Arcade. And so in 1989, most arcades that were like this, you could smoke in arcades. You could, and the only people who'd be in there was like long-haired skids. Have you ever heard that term, skids?
I've heard skids before, but I mean, is that supposed to do with just was it roughed up looking people or some shit?
Well, here for 89, the terminology was you were a skid if you had long hair and you wore you'd wear a jean jacket and jeans. That you were a skid.
Oh, so you were awesome then.
You were awesome. Yeah.
Because to me, that equates to awesome. That just sounds like somebody who's pretty fucking cool.
I was in grade 9 and we walked up to this arcade, and it took us about an hour to get up there. And so we got up there and we're like, oh my God, Final Fight. Like, that was just what we couldn't believe what we were playing. But you're in the arcade and you're like, man, I feel so uncomfortable being in here. And there was such really shady people. It was just like, you felt uncomfortable.
I mean, back then, arcades were notorious for having people going and dealing drugs and doing getting into fights, and because it was a mutual meeting ground for everybody socially to meet up. Nowadays, most people just sit inside their homes and they play games online. But back then, you didn't have that option. But I kind of like the idea of going and meeting up with people and then enjoying shit. It's just that naturally, you're going to have cliques. And then, even worse, sometimes you get the DBZ gang to come in, and then all hell fucking breaks loose. Motherfuckers are throwing chairs and shit, Kamehamehas, everything's fucked. So
that's so fun. So we played the game, we're leaving, and we couldn't just leave. Could we just leave? Fuck no, we couldn't just leave. We started walking, and a couple of these skid fuckers came out. One really tall, big guy, and one who was really skinny, by the way, and one shorter guy. Obviously, it's kind of it reminds me of a Christmas Story, where you got the taller guy, and then the little scrunty guy who's really tough talking because he's with his bigger friend. And we start walking, and he's like, yeah, you fucking losers, yeah, you want to fucking come back, we'll kick your ass. And we're like, and I'm just walking. I'm like, I'm not even gonna look. I'm not even looking. And my friend's like, hey, there's no trouble here. No trouble, because I was with a group of guys that weren't my skateboarding friends. They were just they were really nerdy people I was hanging out with. So they were, they were calling on to themselves, which is, we were like a heat score for that kind of stuff. So, but we were able to get out of there and all that. But I'll never forget Final Fight, playing the game, finishing it, leaving, and having those thugs come after us. That's what it was like back in the 80s, folks. It was great entertainment.
Dude, and that's when you need to go bust a pipe over their head, reach into the garbage can, and get the big old fucking chicken leg, and then you're back to full health. Everything's peachy. You're good to go. Good to go. Oh, and you got an extra life because you just hit a high score. Oh, man. I wish things worked like that. I fucking love that. So, okay, so Final Fight, that was a big deal for you.
Yeah, for sure. That was I think it was again the size of the characters on the screen, the animation. It was, and again, I'm gonna say, because I was kind of into it at that point. Anime. I mean, it was so anime looking and so stylish.
Oh, yeah. And it helped because since the graphics were a lot nicer on something like that, they could get more detailed with the art style.
Yeah. And
you could go and see some cool shit like that. I always like that, but I don't know. I have a big time love for the Final Fight series. Final Fight CD is always going to be my favorite of the bunch, just because it is the best. As far as home versions go.
Yeah, I have it. I love it for sure.
But let's see. Another series that I've always enjoyed the hell out of, just because. For me personally, I haven't seen many games be able to like pull this off and replicate it even nowadays, but it's the Darkstalker series.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were talking about fighting games, but whenever I think of like really top tier fighting games, Street Fighter will come to mind. Guilty Gear is always number one for me, like for forever and a day. But Darkstalkers is always high on my list of absolutely like ace fighting games. And it's mainly because of the art style and the theme of it being all about monsters and ghouls and demons and shit. Yeah. And they took this cartoon looking approach when making it. Like you could see that this looked like it would come off the pages of a manga that somebody was reading, and looked so different compared to what you would see traditionally with other Capcom fighters. You know, whether it was the 2D or even the 3D ones. I fucking love Darkstalkers. Also, Morgan is hot as shit. So.
Yeah, no, you know, so here's something funny. This is a really, what an unusual thing is that because Street Fighter 2 was such a big deal to me, I would sit and imagine, you know, what Street Fighter 3 would be, or maybe some other kind of fighting game. Like, well, I was thinking to myself at the time, what is my dream fighting game? How would I make that? How would I do that? And this is no joke. How could I make this shit up, as I say? I was drawing, and I'd have to find the drawings one day, this game called Dark Fighters. I think it was called Dark Fighter. And how it was going to play, it had nothing to do with any characters like that or anything like that. But there'd be two, because Street Fighter was so groundbreaking, I wanted to try to be groundbreaking again. That'd be 2 sets of controllers on one side, 2 sets of controllers on another. So you could play 1-on-1, but you could play also 2 versus 2 on the screen at the same time. And so 2 players that were on the same team could do combos together. So you could do, like, you get together and you do different taps, and you could, and so one character could control it, and you do like special moves and all that. And I was like, I drew it, and I said Dark Fighter, and I drew this cool dark character-esque thing. And then all of a sudden I walked into a 7-Eleven one day and I saw, you know, Darkstalkers, and I'm like, what the fuck? You know, I know, it was kind of weird. Like, it was like, yeah. It was just so trippy. I'm like, well, shit. You know what I mean? Like, everything that I was getting excited for imagining, I was seeing it in a different form, but I was in the same wavelength as things back then. It was really unusual. But Darkstalkers, I remember seeing Felicia, and I was like, wow. Yeah. Like, I couldn't believe the animation.
And I couldn't believe that her tits weren't fucking popping out considering what she was wearing. But, dude, like, all the characters in that, I just loved the way that they looked. I was just like, dude, this is cool as shit. Like, their take on what a vampire looked like, and what a succubus would look like, and what a mummy would look like, and what Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I loved their take on all that, and as the series went along, it just got better and better and better, and we haven't seen anything from it since. I know it's not one of the biggest franchises out there from under Capcom's umbrella, but fuck, man, I so wish that they'd revisit that series and just bring it back, because it's too damn good to just let it fester.
You know what I would do is, I know it's because the Street Fighter is the big one for them. I wish you could unlock secret characters, like, you know, that you could get, you know, like Morgan in Street Fighter or something. Like, I know it fucks up the universes. I get it. I'm against it in a lot of ways, but I just wonder the way Capcom could bring them back.
Yeah, I would love for something like that, but I think the only way that they're going to even be able to do shit like that is with like the Marvel Versus series.
Yeah, you're right. I know exactly.
Which, you know, it works out really well for fans because it's got the whole thing kind of similar to Smash Brothers. It's all about just like appeasing fans. You know, it's a nice.
Sorry, it's fan service more. I find mostly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is, and you know what? It's beautiful. I love the fact that they do shit like that. And for me, you know, again, if anybody who's listening to this, check out the Darkstalker games. They don't get a lot of recognition, and they're still kind of relatively unknown. Yeah. It doesn't help that I think the last true installment in the series was Darkstalkers 3. They've had other versions, like, bundled together, and HD versions and all the other fucking crap, but no true sequels or prequels or whatever. So that was the last time we got to visit that, which is sad. So yeah, PS1, Sega Saturn, that was the last time we saw that. But let's see, another series that was really, really groundbreaking, and it came out of nowhere. Nobody saw this shit coming, but once it hit, it blew up, and that was Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I remember that was the first kind of like when the internet was really kicking in a bit, and websites were like posting videos, so I could see videos of it, and I was like, holy, I just love the fact that you could juggle in the air with shooting combos. I was like, fuck my cunt. Dude, this is fucking amazing.
The thing that it had going for it was fucking cool. In every way, it was cool. You had a cool character doing cool things. He had this big fucking sword, and he had these two dual-wielding guns, shooting shit, carving enemies up. And it was in this dark gothic horror setting, and he's got the demon transformation move, and just all this stuff. I'm like, holy fuck. How do you get more awesome than this? And the answer is, you really don't.
It's so funny. I remember being on forums at the time going, oh my god, it gets released tomorrow. Holy shit. I was those fanboying guys in the forums. And, it's so funny that I got the game a couple of days later, like the next day, and then the day after that, it may sound funny, I lost my job at the software company. They were like really KOing this company, and I just remember playing the game, and it was a dark night, and I was sitting by myself, and the eerie music, and finding out that I didn't have a job, and how was I gonna keep paying my rent in my apartment? I was in fear mode. It was really, and I'll never forget Devil May Cry for, giving me comfort, but also it just came out at the weirdest time. You know how some games come out at weird times and you remember them for that. And I just remember sitting in the darkness going, oh my God, I don't have a job. And this game, I'm playing this incredible game. And just the eerie music playing in the background. It was like,
dude. And it's awesome, but it's the game. It's crazy to think about, but it was originally going to be Resident Evil 4.
That's right.
And what the entire point to it was, they want to make a character that had powers just like Wesker got in Resident Evil Code Veronica, which that was actually going to be the original Resident Evil 3, but due to a contract they had with Sony, they had to go and make Nemesis Resident Evil 3 and make Code Veronica into the side story. But they had made this character, and Dante was part of like a little task force, like a little police force, and it was kind of like, Hunk's group and shit, where they went out and they took care of business, and they said, well, it plays way too differently, it's got to be its own thing. Onimusha, same thing, it was a spin-off of Resident Evil, but with Devil May Cry, if you look through the game, like, it definitely has like Resident Evil vibes to it, but holy shit, man. Yeah. It was so damn fun. I mean, Dante is like this real cocky, arrogant character, and rightfully so, because he's the son of Sparta, and he can own everything, and it's so fucking fun. The stronger you get, the more moves you get, the more powerful combos, you get new upgraded weapons. Dude, the first time I busted out his boomstick, it's just...
Oh, yeah.
And just blew the enemies away, like, into smithereens. And I love just uppercutting them several times, and then unloading, like, bullets into them, jumping up in the air right before they landed, and then start comboing them in midair. And you felt like you had all these options.
And that's another thing that you just mentioned, the combos, they were an accident as well. So they were testing out all these different types of combat things, and so they wanted you to jump in the air and shoot, and jump down. But there was one thing where I think the character jumps in the air and he's shooting, but then he's able to hit with his sword, and they're like, wait a second, this shouldn't have happened, but it's fun. Why don't we
very fun.
Incorporate this? And so the combo system in that game was an accident, a happy accident that they absolutely fleshed out and made into a real system.
And the irony is that the combo system in Street Fighter was an accident.
Yeah, definitely.
And the combo system in Devil May Cry and Accent, both games from Capcom. Just ironic to think that this company who's been innovating has had these accidental things occur that turned out to work really well just because it didn't come to mind.
Yeah.
And something so simple just changed the entire landscape of what the game is. And talking about like this game, and I'm glad that the series had went on to have so many different sequels. I'm hoping that Capcom does pull the trigger on Devil May Cry 5, like they're saying, because man, I actually am a big fan of Devil May Cry 4. It gets a lot of heat, and I never understand why, because it's a very good game.
What about that? Sorry, what about the reboot? I have not played that reboot version.
I played it. I was livid at it because I felt it was unnecessary and very forced.
Yeah.
I played through the game, and it's made by Ninja Theory. The game is the best game that Ninja Theory has produced. I will say that. I've actually played every single game Ninja Theory has put out. And this was without a doubt their most polished game, without a doubt their best game. It is not a very good Devil May Cry game. Because the characters, the story are all cringeworthy and awful and just terrible. They lack that charm that made the original so special and unique and different. And this seemed like a bad representation of that. And it didn't work. But the game, like, graphically looks good. Controls very well. Level design was actually like one of the high points of it. The music I really wasn't a fan of, and I thought the music in Devil May Cry was a very important thing.
That fucking guitar, oh my god.
Yeah, oh dude, they would have like this electronic industrialized music, then heavy metal playing in addition, and it fucking worked because
in that gothic world, It
was just, it's so fucking cool. And again, it helps because that's what Devil May Cry was about. It was being over the top, crazy, fast, action, cool. And it always did that in spades everywhere. You felt empowered being Dante. And, again, he was supposed to be somebody who was supposed to go toe-to-toe with Wesker from Resident Evil. So they had to make somebody who was, like, up to that level because they made Wesker a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Hell, I've considered him like one of the best villains out there, and Dante's like easily one of the coolest protagonists in any game.
Yeah.
But so want to segue into Resident Evil?
Well, actually, I was just sitting here contemplating. I'm like, we're gonna get into Resident Evil. How about we do this? We make Resident Evil its own episode.
We can do that
because it's so big, and I know you know quite a lot about the game,
Too
and
much.
So do I. But I have a lot of questions. And I think a lot of people might get a lot out of that. And I'd like to dedicate an entire hour to that because I know we both have so much to say about it. I know you have so much to say about it.
Oh, yeah.
So let's say that Resident Evil is very important for Capcom, and we're going to talk about it very soon.
All right. Well, let's see. I guess a different game that I love to death, and it's actually important to me as a big RPG fan, which I think a lot of people out there already know what the hell I'm going to say. But the Breath of Fire series.
I know.
Breath of Fire 3 was my very first PlayStation 1 RPG. And I remember playing that, and I was blown away. And I still consider it like one of the better RPGs I've played of all time. It's so damn good. Holy shit. Johnny, thoughts on Breath of Fire?
Breath of Fire. The very first time I saw it, my friend Andrew, because he moved away from where we used to live, and he was living in Calgary and going to university out there. But the great thing is every year he'd come out and stay with me for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, and we just play video games every day, and that's all we did. So he came out and he had Breath of Fire, and I said, no, go figure. I used to sit at his house watching him play video games. He came over to my house and he brought his copy of Breath of Fire, and I watched him goddamn play it. But what was so beautiful about the very first Breath of Fire was how pretty it looked. It would look very pastel-y. The graphics looked really good. The enemies were really good. It was anime. It was an RPG. And I can't say that enough. It was an RPG on the Super Nintendo. That was a big fucking deal. You know? So that was my first experience into it. And then me and this girl broke up. I don't know. See, I relate everything by memories this way. It's so funny. I was 21. Me and her had just broken up. And I was just like, oh man. And I went and bought 2 games. I bought Mega Man X and I bought Breath of Fire 2. And I came home and I played the hell out of Breath of Fire 2, and with all the different characters with the different abilities that could help you get to different areas. I really fell in love with that game. And I played the 3rd game, and I didn't have as much of a religious experience for it. I was in film school at the time, so I didn't get quite into it. But the 4th game, incredible animation. Holy fuck. I need to get a copy of Breath of Fire.
Dude, it's heartbreaking, but if you see the Japanese version, it's got way more. They cut out a shit ton of stuff when they released it.
See, I love it when I can learn something. Why would they cut out animation? Do we know?
Apparently, it was... This is what I had heard way back in the day, and I was reluctant to even get Breath of Fire 4 because I was pissed off when I was reading about this.
Wow.
But they took out a bunch, and keep in mind, this is all hand-drawn animation for anybody out there, because CG was the big thing during the PS1 era, and they opted for hand-drawn animation, and it was so fucking cool. But they took it out because it was too mature, like too violent or some shit, and they would have to potentially change the rating of the game if they included it.
Oh god, the fucking rating system.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, like in the 90s, the ESRB rating system was very, very, very fickle. Like,
yeah,
it would any tiny little thing that could possibly be set off, because that was at the point that they were still coming off the whole thing of like the violent shootings and shit, and they were like, they were very scared. So they were worried about that, and you figure if you make your rating for a game go from like teen to mature, now all of a sudden you've potentially just pushed away like a certain audience who will never be able to experience the game for years.
Yeah,
because of something like that.
Oh,
and that's always bugged the shit out of me. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I love Breath of Fire 2 and I love Breath of Fire 3 on SNES and PS1. But that one, as much as I like the game, it's just always it's haunted me like the entire time. It's burnt my ass.
I never, like, me and Rob would always talk about how the animation was so good on it back in the day. We're like, oh my god, look at this game, it's incredible. But I had no idea that animation, they would remove animation. That's fucking weird.
Well, there's so many times that, during the process of translating games, that they'll change a lot of shit, like the context of something.
Xenogears is a great example. Exactly. Yeah.
It gets nuts. I mean, certain things are fucking stupid, like when they change something that's like a sign that says bar and they change it to cafe. I'm like, you're so fucking lame. Shut the fuck up.
Lame.
Like, that's going way too far with it, and I think it's ridiculous. Like, when they change, like, church into something else, I'm like, who the fuck are you really offending? Like, if anything, it's offensive that you think people would get bothered by it, but, that's just, it's silly. But Breath of Fire is one of those things that Capcom doesn't have much in the way of role-playing games under their belt. They have a lot of everything else, fighting games and platforming games and shit, but not a lot of RPGs, and that made Breath of Fire more special.
Yeah,
I felt, and it had dragons. I fucking love dragons.
But isn't this a great segue into a point that Capcom has all these amazing franchises, but nowadays they really just are concentrating on Street Fighter, and we've never seen another next generation Breath of Fire game. I know they've done like Dragon's Dogma and stuff like that, but they've never returned to a lot of their roots. We've never got another, Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts. We've never got another Breath of Fire. Darkstalkers we were talking about.
I think that they feel that it might be one of those, like, they've waited so long, and will they be able to make their money back off something like this? Because they'll be going after what could be considered a niche audience, at least for the time being, until they really advertise the fuck out of it. Not only get the old fans back, but bring in an entire new generation to like these kind of things. Because, I mean, for fuck's sake, lots of people don't know what the Onimusha games are.
That's crazy. And
Onimusha was just from the PlayStation 2 era. It's not old. But there's a lot of people who don't, let alone we're going back to, Breath of Fire. I mean, Dragon Quarter was the last one on there, which, fuck Dragon Quarter. The original ones, fuck yeah, the original 4 Breath of Fire games are gems. People don't know what those are. If I mention Beautiful Joe, no one's going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. I mean,
it's funny. I've had conversations about that, and people are like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh my god, how do you not know that game?"
Yeah, and you know what? And that's another fine example of a game that, it came out around the time of Devil May Cry, where they took something and made it super stylish and over the top. You know, we weren't seeing a lot of 2D styled games at that point, so it made Beautiful Joe stand out because it wasn't going full 3D. Yeah. And it was like a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but then had like this cell animation. It was doing things that was supposed to look like it was like a movie strip, so to speak. And
slow time down, speed time up.
Yeah, dude, it was so fucking fun. Beautiful Joe 1 and 2, I love to death. They are not henshin a go-go, baby.
Yeah, that's right,
dude. They're so fucking fun. And it's just, they haven't been touched in a while. If Capcom said right now on social media, hey, we're going to bundle Beautiful Joe 1 and 2 in HD and release it on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, I'd jump the fuck on that. I own both games, and I'd go and get it just so I could support it, with the idea that if that sells well, it'll initiate the idea that they're going to continue with the series, you know? Yeah.
So I got a question for you. Sure. If Capcom could bring back one of their old franchises and do something incredible in 3D now with it, say like one of their 2D franchises, what would it be?
Ooh.
I know.
Man.
It's kind of exciting.
Let's see.
While you're thinking about it, I'll tell you mine.
Let's see. A 2D franchise that they haven't actually done in 3D.
Ghouls and Ghosts for me. Ghouls and Ghosts.
Well, I mean, they technically did with Maximo.
No! Fuck, this is one I fucking hate Maximo.
I mean, that's for man, I'm trying to think of something that they just haven't done.
I was insulted by Maximo because it wasn't Ghouls and Ghosts, so I had that kind of reaction to it.
I long consider like Maximo. I actually enjoyed the first Maximo. I never played the second one, but I consider like Ghouls and Ghosts and Goblins in their own league by comparison, because they just weren't able to. Fuck. A 2D game that they haven't done in 3D. Damn it. I'm trying my best right now.
You were kind of saying something like Darkstalkers earlier on would be cool.
Yeah. I was trying to think of something that, like, a franchise I just haven't mentioned whatsoever. But
well, see, you know what? Another franchise we didn't mention in this, Bionic Commando, and they did that, and look how that turned out. Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's fucking tragic. If any,
yeah,
you know what? Here, just because you were mentioning it earlier, and I really like the direction of the last one that they made for PS3. I would love to see a full-blown 3D adventure game of Strider.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I'd want it to have that pseudo Metroidvania feel of the last one that they had released, because for me that's my favorite one. I love that to death. But if they made one where you're running and double and triple jumping and clinging on the walls and shooting out fucking stars everywhere and carving up enemies all in 3D. Oh yeah, dude!
And you're gaining levels.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck yes. Like finding secret passages and shit, learning new techniques. Like, you know, these gargantuan fucking bosses. You're climbing up to the top, Shadow of Colossus style, and you're carving up their fucking head, and you have to dodge their attacks and cling onto the ceiling because it has some fire attack going across the ground, and then one goes across the ceiling, so you get to jump at just the right moment back onto the bosses. Man, I'm getting fucking excited just thinking about it, and it's not real. So
I know.
For you.
Hey, that's how I feel. Like I just feel like a Ghouls and Ghosts in 3D. You know, a real rich 3D, keeping a cartoony, stylish graphics. Oh my god!
Dude, just imagine seeing Arthur in true 3D. Not that ultimate Ghost and Goblins shit. I'm talking like a real 3D world. You're running around, and like they take the art assets and they just make it like cell shaded, and they throw you into that fucking. Oh my god, I'd love it.
That'd be just. Oh, I could live in that world.
That's one of the things I think about this stuff, and I'm like, man, just pull the fucking trigger on it, dude, and just, I mean, go gung-ho. I mean, I long for some of these series to come back. I keep on thinking to myself, can I get a remake of the original Dino Crisis like they did with the original Resident Evil? Oh, God,
that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Because that game, you know, a lot of people initially were like, oh, man, Dino Crisis.
I mean, it's just a rip-off of Resident Evil, they thought.
Yeah, it's just Resident Evil dinosaurs. Big deal.
I'll take it. I'll fucking take it. Back then, oh, fuck, Resident Evil was awesome. It's like, oh, they're doing one with dinosaurs? Fuck yes.
Yep. I mean, anything that was more survival horror, because I already had my Resident Evil, I already had my Silent Hill. Give me Dino Crisis, bring that shit on. And Dino Crisis 2 and Dino Crisis 3, both of them were so drastically different. I just want them to go back to the original premise of it being a horror game. And you know, Regina's such an awesome character. In terms of like female video game characters, she's like top shit. She was sarcastic and witty and funny, and I liked that. And on top of that, she was a bad motherfucker. She went around fighting a fucking T-Rex. You know, pterodactyls and shit are coming in. No fucks given. She's just blowing everything away. Jurassic Park had it wrong. You needed fucking Regina up in that bitch. She would have been able to take care of business like nobody else could, and it's fucking awesome. Damn, it makes me sad to think that they have all these franchises. I just hope that they've been doing a better job of listening. I want them to bring these things back. Give us Beautiful Joe. Give us fucking Power Stone. Give us more Phoenix Wright. Give us Darkstalkers.
Rival Schools. I know. Now we're mentioning all the ones we want to.
Fuck yeah, Rival Schools, man. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Like, a little known game, Tacromancer.
Yeah.
I'm going on to Dreamcast shit. Like, you know.
Cyberbots.
Yeah. Fucking thank you. If we could get another Demon's Crest game, that's something.
Oh,
you know what?
Now there's one. Okay, I would love a 2D Castlevania Symphony of the Night style version of that. You know, with updated. Oh my god,
dude! Oh my god, I'm.
I know.
Okay, Demon's Crest, for anybody out there, if you know about the Gargoyles Quest games, then, you know, Demon's Crest is obviously the continuation of that. And anybody who's a big fan of the Ghouls and Ghosts series, what is it, Red? God, what the fuck's his name? Red Brand?
Oh, yeah, the main character, like, well, one of the Ghouls and Ghosts guys, yeah.
So that annoying red demon that come down and just haunt the living shit out of you, he's the star of those games, and they're all really good. So NES, Game Boy, and an SNES, but they never touched it since. Dude, holy shit, if they took the Demon's Crest style, and Demon's Crest is beautiful. Oh my god, is it pretty.
Really nice.
Like, for a 16-bit era, even now, I look at it, I'm like, that's one of the most visually stunning games from that era. If they took that and then took the Symphony of Night style, you're leveling up, getting more demonic powers and shit. You're able to fly longer. You're able to do more fire attacks. Eventually, like a spread shot like in Contra. Just, holy fuck. I'd throw so much money at it. I'd go into debt. I'd punch my wallet into their face. I'd be like, just fucking take it.
I'm just looking online. He's a red demon named Firebrand.
Firebrand, that's it, not Red
There
Brand.
we go.
Yeah.
Even though it was bugging me, I was like, what the fuck, man? I can't remember his name.
Oh my god, dude. That would be the shit right there. So, God. But Capcom, I mean, we've named off so many series from them, and the truth is that, I mean, for me, still to this day, despite the dumb shit that they had done quite a few years ago, but are now getting a lot better, Capcom is my all-time favorite third-party company.
Oh, God. It's so funny. I do all these Let's Plays, and I get to the third one. I'm like, I've got to stop playing Capcom games. Sorry, everybody. Sorry. But they were such a big deal in the arcades back then. Sorry, Magic Sword, UN Squadron. Look at the fuck what we're forgetting.
Yeah. Haunting Ground.
Sorry?
Haunting Ground.
Haunting Ground.
Haunting Ground is, it's on PS2. It's technically the fourth Clock Tower game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Capcom's actually got the rights to the official Clock Tower games. Clock Tower 3 was not that good. But Haunting Ground was fucking phenomenal. That was good shit right there. Chaos Legion. That was another game. A lot of people said, oh, it's just like poor man's Devil May Cry. I'm like, yeah, well, it's still a good fucking game and is able to stand on its own, so why the fuck not? Crimson Tears, which wasn't a bad game. I'm like going for really obscure one-off games. God Hand, arguably
God Hand
one
is
of
great.
the best fucking beat 'em ups that they'd made in recent memory. Okami. Okami's one of the most beautiful games in existence.
Absolutely wonderbar.
It's the best Legend of Zelda game that Legend of Zelda fans have not played.
Yeah.
And it's so damn good.
Okay, and we forgot to mention something that was really important. Captain Commando.
Captain Commando. I actually would love to see that come back, because the original Captain Commando, like, that shit's expensive as fuck. But they should bring that back, because, I mean, the last time most people heard of the character was in the Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Yeah, everybody's like, who's he?
So, you know, and that's a shame, because a lot of characters that I'm naming off, like in Okami, Amaterasu, is that how you say her name? The god wolf from the Okami games. She shows up in that. She's also one of the most fucking overpowered characters in the game. But she shows up in that, and people wouldn't know what the fuck Okami was if it was on fire in their yard. They'd be like, what the fuck's that? Never heard of it, you know. Then they had the one on...
Old.
Huh?
It doesn't feel like it's that old.
It doesn't, but it's been a while since some of these came out. You know, Beautiful Joe, he showed up in Marvel vs. Capcom games. And again, when was the last time we got one of them?
Well,
Give me any kind of collection with many of these. Give me Dino Crisis, the remake, done in the same exact way as that, I'd be all over. I mean, they're remaking Resident Evil 2, so... why the fuck not? You know, there are certain things that they just didn't age as well as some things could have. So bring them back to the forefront and then get people reinvested in the series again and just go with it. And like you said, dude, the Demon's Crest Castlevania type game, holy shit. Getting a full 3D world for Strider to run around in.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, I would love this shit. I would love it so damn much. Give us a...
Yeah.
They're working on Breath of Fire 6 right now, but I don't even know what the hell's happening with that.
Oh, sorry, wasn't that going to be a mobile game or something?
That was the thing. Last time I heard about it, and they had just taken some random fucking stupid mobile game, and then were slapping the Breath of Fire name on it. And then, like, months and months and months passed, actually well over a year now. And now... apparently, this is like a full-fledged Breath of Fire game, so I don't know if they restarted from the ground up and decided to go with it due to the animosity they got from longtime fans. But if they did, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's the thing. They created so many memorable franchises. You know what I mean? So many, like such worlds. Like, let's be honest here. They've made entire worlds.
They have.
And,
they've made
them.
worlds and characters and memories. They've made entire subgenres themselves. They've created iconic characters. Like I've got the Capcom Encyclopedia, the Capcom Characters Encyclopedia.
Yeah.
And going through that, I found out about franchises I never knew about because they were Japan only.
There's a lot of weird shooters, right? Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Dude, they're shooters out the ass. I mean, I love shooters. I don't play them nearly as much as I would like to, and also I'm not as good at them as I would like to be, because some bullet hell shooters they're not for the faint at heart.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like, going through, I was like, man, this is good. As a matter of fact, you know what? Here, that's a book. If you get the chance, just because due to the fact that you're listening to this right now, check out the Capcom Characters Encyclopedia book. I got the book fucking ages ago, and it's one of those, it's fun to just pick up and thumb through, but you also learn some shit from it because you didn't know anything about some of those franchises or characters, and it's just, I don't know, it's nice. I like it.
I got the Japanese version years ago, so there's no English in it.
Yeah. You've also got the, you have the Mega Man encyclopedias.
No, that's Rob has those. He brought those over for an episode one time. But, no, I did. Yeah, the encyclopedia of all Capcom characters. Yeah.
Dude,
I have a really old one.
Did I tell you that I ended up getting that book because of your video?
That's hilarious.
Dude, no shit. I didn't fucking know about it because a lot of the art books and the compendiums and other shit that they put out, that they go over my head. I never hear about them. And then I saw that review of yours. I was like, dude, that's legit. I'm picking this shit up because it didn't cost that much. It was only like whenever I got it, I think I paid like 20, 25, some shit like that.
I think when we did that review, nobody was doing stuff like that.
No.
And so it was like some people were like, "Oh my god," you know what I mean? Like, and that's why we wanted to do it because we're like, "Look at these fucking books, we love them. Fucking go buy them, you'll like them too."
Dude, there's
they're paid by the companies to do anything, you know what I mean?
Like a lot of people don't know I have this video up, but I did a review of the Resident Evil Archives books.
Yeah.
And they're just like that. They're so good, especially Archives 1 because it covers the earlier games much better, much better of a purchase. But they are so damn good. So
yeah.
As far as like all these Capcom games, if you're into them as much as we are, or you're just like dabbling and you want to get into more stuff, check out all the franchises we fucking mentioned. But definitely check out like the Mega Man complete works,
That's nice. Yeah.
the Capcom Encyclopedia, and the Resident Evil Archives books, because those are must-haves if you're into any of those series, or just, want something that covers everything like the Encyclopedia does.
Oh my god.
But dude, these games, I'm telling you, man, from arcades, handhelds, consoles, fucking Capcom did it all, and they still do. I fucking love them. Most people are like, what about Monster Hunter? And some other shit. I actually don't play the Monster Hunter games. I
played the first one like on PS2, and then I was done. I kind of I enjoyed it. I didn't dislike it, but I never really got really into it.
I didn't get any of the other ones. I had played a little bit of the one. It was like Tri Ace, or just Try, but on the Wii, I tried that one out, and I thought that one was really good. And I played one on PlayStation 2. I think that one was just Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
And I liked them, but I never got to delve into them as much as I wanted to, because I always end up getting them when I'm playing like a million other things.
That's kind of, and that's the thing when Monster Hunter came out, there was a lot of stuff going on at the time. I remember there was what was it? Nocturne was out, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on. So it was like, we'll get to it eventually, Yeah,
but Capcom, for the both of us, a huge part of our lives and a huge part of gaming, just in general.
Oh God, yeah, I know they've become controversial in the last few years, and I don't want to get into that now. We're already I think we're 20 minutes over our limit.
Yeah, it's Capcom. I was expecting that because I could go on about all the series. Fuck, I could go on for hours just about the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series, because that's one of my favorite series that they've ever put out, and I love that to death. But it's you want to try to not leave things out whenever it comes to it. So Phoenix
it's gonna happen. Somebody's going, you didn't mention blah blah. We're like, oh right.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's too much to mention, but we got to talk about a lot of cool shit, so I'm happy.
I'm really happy. We got to really cover a lot of our love for Capcom,
and we will have a full blown Resident Evil episode.
Oh, definitely. That deserves.
It's too big of a series not to, because fuck it. We both could go on for a long time.
Hey, we got to do a Street Fighter episode too.
I'm all for that.
That's easily done, type of thing. Because if we don't, the DBZ boys are gonna get you.
Oh yeah, you don't want them to go and spray painting your house up. So.
Oh yeah. And
they're card carrying members, so that they're legit.
They will fuck you up, and they'll make you watch anime. Especially
a lot.
DBZ. Especially this one show called DBZ. Exactly. Fuck. So, okay. So guys, until next time.
Game the fuck on.
Capcom
titties, they bounce just right.
Oh yeah.
Such a delight. Nice.